ho, ho, ho. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Been chomping at the bit. Foaming at the mouth all over that kaiju crotch. And by crotch, I mean crochet. Lots of kaiju crochet out there. Godzilla! Symphonic concert. Oh, the infinite wisdom these movies hold, from sweeping romance to intricate philosophies to the expression of its dire existentialism. Okay, well, it's really got none of that. But it does have a big lizard and gorilla smashing away at a pagoda.
It's not a lizard and it's not a gorilla. It's an ape for King Kong, and Godzilla was a radioactive dinosaur. Get it right! You gotta get it right! You gotta get it right!
I will get it right.
I was freaking obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid, so when I was introduced to Godzilla, you know I ate all that stuff up. He is a real dinosaur to me. I don't care what anyone says. He's out there. We just haven't looked hard enough. Some say if he did exist, it wouldn't be possible because his bones would fold in on themselves. Gee, thanks a lot, science. Always a pool of exciting information you are. I'm kidding. You suck. You make all of fiction suck. That's all you do anymore. And when you're not doing that, you're inventing cures and treatments that nobody can use and may not work anyway. You suck. Destroy the Science Institute.
The Science Institute.
Godzilla, the famous monster everyone knows, was born from a disturbing instrument of science and became a living nightmare to anyone holding real estate within the East Pacific region. Godzilla, destroyer of worlds, or the first house flipper? The big lug has 31 movies under his belt, once co-starred with Nick Adams and settled down after gaining a net worth of $61 trillion. How's that make you feel, Elijah Cummings?
I'm tired of the drib-drab.
Been around so long, it's no surprise that the franchise has garnered an extensive backlog of music. Almost every film featured an orchestral score of some magnitude or another that the music birthed out of the series eventually garnered a reputation. So much so that the longtime composer Akira Ifukube smashed a lot of it in 3 symphonic suites, known as Symphonic Fantasia, of which are the main focus of this album, Godzilla Symphonic Concert. And it's only after taking the time to listen to it once more that I have to ask, why? Why is a lot of music from the Godzilla series popular, like at all? Because from what I heard, this music really shouldn't be. Oh, see what I did there? I got you going one direction, then I jerked the wheel in another, and now we don't know where we are. I've said before that music tied to a property isn't always as good as some people crack it up to be. They just like it because it's connected to something they know, and then therefore call the music attached to a genius. Inspired! And I feel this is the case with a lot of Godzilla music. I just get the sense that if someone wrote music in a similar style to that of Godzilla, and you got 20-some people in a room to listen to it, they would say that they didn't enjoy it. Because the music of Godzilla, at least through the creative filter of Ifukube's vision, isn't theatrically fancy or smooth or gallant or sweeping. A lot of it is rough, slow, sluggish, and oddly rustic. It growls, snarls, grumbles, and none of it is taken to sound, well, good. Its color and texture can be dirty, filthy even, and its tempo and overall pace for certain passages builds like a boiler on the fritz. Ifukube, at least in his music for Godzilla, is 2 things, classical and old school, which are pretty much the same thing. This is a composer who's all things classical and approaches these films' music with a relentless fondness for the instrumental creativity of Tchaikovsky and Stravinsky, and the lure of the elusive in Debussy. That's what makes listening to Ifukube fun. If you're a geek for this classical music stuff, then you can probably find a lot of references to works and composers that inspired him. He's so old school, he supposedly dropped out of scoring Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla because the script read too much like a pop idol film and included a rap. I actually liked that movie and the score. But man, you must really gotta hate rap to back out of scoring for a franchise that also had you score whatever the heck this was. Not all of the music in the 3 Fantasias is from Godzilla, but other various science fiction movies Ifukube scored, including Kong, Manda, Frankenstein, Rodan, Mothra, and good old Varan. But to save money, a lot of this music was used for the Godzilla films that kept popping out, so a lot of the music kind of became synonymous with him anyway. I mean, we're talking monster movies here. This is serious business. Each Fantasia has a pattern that basically consists of starting with a famous main theme, a cavalcade of various other works, and then ends with a bevy of marches. The battle themes between monsters usually combine different rhythms, with brass playing one layer and the strings playing another. It sounds naturally like a collision of fisticuffs, or fins, or drills, or those dentist instruments. Man, the creators were on drugs when they came up with Gigan. It's not a fast polyrhythm, but a moderate trepidation. Here again, Ifukube channels another composer in Revueltas with Sensei Maya. The original work about a guy fighting a snake carries a nervous tone throughout. One of my favorites, the battle theme from King Kong vs. Godzilla, is like a love letter to Revueltas. Not just in rhythm, but its odd use of instruments and guttural horns. The quick, primitive ascensions of the strings with arm hair raising percussion and harsh intrusion from the brass creates a lot of excitement. Sacred Fountain from Mothra vs. Godzilla is an interesting one. I never really paid the piece much mind before, but the performance of it here opened my ears to it. Usually a female voice lends a bit of vocalese to the melody. I've never found that part bad, but its execution felt lacking and made it a lot cheesier than it had to be. It's not featured here. The two flutes are the highlight, adding a gentle fantasy element to otherwise stern, less positive strings. I can't help but get shades of Debussy listening to this kind of stuff, primarily La Mer, but a lot of that comes in smaller moments, like at the conclusion of Godzilla's and Rodan's theme. The charred screams of the trumpets are complemented by this lovely, tepid playing of strings and cymbals, like the shivering of waters after a battle of titans. Much as I enjoy the rougher sound of this music, it wouldn't mean much without something to contrast it, and Ifukube finds plenty of interesting compliments. For instance, after the theme of Mechanicon, don't ask, we get Beauty and Animal, a piece that deserved a far better movie to serve than the one it got. A melancholic melody with an excellent use of timpani, which crackles and crashes upon its soft, naked texture. I can't believe this piece hasn't gotten more attention. It's simple, but hands down the most accurate theme I've ever heard to describe the age-old conflict of Beauty and Beast, summoning a sense of guilt and fixation. These more somber passages, like Sacred Fountain before it, help keep Akira's silliness from overtaking the listener. Ifukube is not a subtle storyteller through his music, at least when it comes to these films, but his music is reminiscent of a campfire storyteller who exaggerates jokes and occasionally gives you a good fright in hearty fashion, only to suddenly bring the listener down to earth again for an uneasy amount of time. It doesn't happen often, but enough. A lot of the rawer sounds spring to mind, well, Rite of Spring, one of Ifukube's supposedly favorite works. The theme to Destroy All Monsters plays in Fantasia No. 3. I have a real fondness for this piece. The flute and bassoon play in sync at the beginning, adding a nice exotic texture. The tuba comes in and the rest of the orchestra bursts through. It's like a zoo of animals just fell through somebody's roof. It's not an attractive sound at all. Kind of sounds like a parody of Stravinsky. Don't mistake any of this for insult. It's rather commendable the dedication it has to carry such a brash tone, and impressive the way it at once offends your ears and intrigues them. Again, he's not aiming for something pretty a lot of the time, and that makes sense considering the material at hand. But where most composers would try to smoothen it out, Ifukube is dead set on letting the tone play itself out. I mean, you're not getting industrial stuff or anything like that, but if you don't like the thought of imitating sounds, motions, and mood of monsters through music, then this probably won't be for you. You non-risk-taking piece of... But for me, it's great, as you get to hear a lot of instruments do stuff you don't normally hear them do. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is music of Godzilla and other kaiju from Ifukube, and while I don't see him as the end-all be-all of composers from the franchise, his influence and those who influenced him remain an undeniable influence and foundation. I read a really stupid article the other day that complained that Godzilla 2014's score was too bombastic. First off, I think those people don't know what bombastic means. Second, even if it was, it's a freaking monster movie. Thirdly, and this is perhaps most important, some complained there were no references to Ifukube's work. And indeed, there aren't any. Unless, you count the entire freaking score. I don't know if it was Desplat's intention or not, but the score is filled to the brim with a lot of strange sounds that give you the impression you're hearing the musical version of monsters bellowing and screaming. That's straight out of Ifukube's playbook, and that lasts throughout the entire thing. Though Desplat goes for smoother harmonies, the approach is way more similar than different. The performances deserve a special mention. I'm not usually picky about different performances of a piece of music so long as they give you the basic idea, but it's a different case here. The incredibly rare album in an evening of special effects features the performance with the overall fastest tempo. The marches get the most enthusiasm, though it's awkward when they have to play slower pieces. They slow it down, but some of them just don't get to breathe the way they need to. It might be the best of the three, but the other two albums have a lot of little nice touches that are hard to be without once you listen to them. The album you've seen featured heavily here contains a few really nice bonus pieces, and is only thoroughly rare. The third performance of the Fantasias can be found on these following albums. I give all of the albums 4 stars out of 5, and my MVP pick is the second Fantasia, but that's a very undecided choice. If I sounded a bit cynical through any of this, I don't mean to. I just don't know if anyone in the history of the world has ever talked about the music of this franchise in full detail ever. It's just always been Ifukube, undisputed Godzilla composer, everything great, bleh. I agree, just not to that level. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the interpretations from other composers. Well, most of them.
Oh, look at this guy over here. Doesn't like Godzilla Resurgence, the score to Godzilla Resurgence? Are you kidding me? You're the same guy who doesn't like the Game of Thrones music, too. You suck. You don't know what you're talking about. You suck. Don't walk away from me. Come here. Come here. Game of Thrones music is better than Beethoven. How dare you? The score to Godzilla Resurgence was the best one. It's the guy from Berserk and Evangelion. Don't ignore me. Don't ignore me like that. Don't be that prick. Don't be that prick and ignore me. Hey, don't you cut me off. Don't you cut me off, man. You can't play Thomas the Tank Engine music over me. That's not real mature. That ain't funny. That ain't funny.
I've been working on this for the past 11 hours, maybe. And I just had to show these two ladies here. Just watch. Giant monsters coming to destroy Tokyo. Look at them. They just got up like they found out this isn't their table at the Applebee's. I just love the way they get up and then just shuffle off. It couldn't be any more directed. Like, you can just hear the director shouting, okay! What's okay in Japanese? I don't know. Look at him go. Space Godzilla's attacking. Gotta leave. Space Godzilla. Gotta go. Gotta go back home.